The email arrived while I was reviewing quarterly projections for my startup. Congratulations to Jason Sullivan on the launch of InnoVision, revolutionizing user experience design. My coffee mug shattered against the floor, but I barely heard it. My hands didn't shake as I clicked the link. My voice didn't waver as I called my assistant to reschedule my afternoon meetings. The only sign that my best friend of 15 years had just stolen my business concept was a slight tightening around my eyes. Jason Sullivan. The same Jason who'd spent countless nights at my dining table as I sketched interfaces and outlined business plans. The same Jason who'd nodded enthusiastically when I explained my vision for a more intuitive design platform. The same Jason who apparently just launched that exact platform under his own name. I'm Michelle Lin, and at 32, I just discovered the most calculated betrayal in my professional life. But while Jason was probably celebrating his grand launch, imagining me in shock over his brilliant move, I was calmly closing my laptop and reaching for my phone. The signs had been there for months. The sudden cancellations of our weekly strategy sessions, the vague responses when I shared new developments, the way he'd stopped contributing to our shared research document, but continued requesting access to view my updates. 3 months ago, he'd asked unusually specific questions about my funding timeline and patent applications during what I now realize was our last real conversation. That same evening, I'd backed up all our correspondence, including emails where he acknowledged my concept ownership. A week later, when he suggested we take a break from our collaboration to pursue other projects, I'd agreed pleasantly while documenting everything we'd discussed to date. My phone buzzed with a text from Jason. Hope you saw the announcement. Sometimes you just have to run with a good idea. No hard feelings. It's just business, right? Just business. As if 15 years of friendship meant nothing. As if the concept I'd developed over 2 years was simply up for grabs. As if trust was a disposable commodity in the marketplace of ambition. I didn't respond to his text. Instead, I called my lawyer, the one I'd consulted 6 weeks ago when I'd noticed Jason's company had registered a domain name suspiciously similar to what I'd planned for my platform. It's time, I said simply. He's gone public with it. The documentation is ready, he replied. Do you want to move forward with the cease and desist immediately? No rush, I said. Let him enjoy his moment first. Another text from Jason. I know this must be hard for you, but hey, the market's big enough for competitors. Maybe you can still launch your version, eventually. My version. Of my own idea. The audacity almost made me laugh. I took a screenshot of the message, adding it to my evidence folder. Let him dig his hole deeper. I spent that evening in my apartment, reviewing the business plan I'd developed, the one Jason had praised so effusively before deciding to claim it as his own. Our history flashed before my eyes. We'd met in college, both ambitious computer science majors with dreams of changing the tech landscape. We'd stayed close through our 20s, sometimes competitors, sometimes collaborators, but always friends. Or so I thought. My phone kept buzzing with texts from mutual contacts. Did you see Jason's launch? Isn't this basically your idea? What are you going to do? I replied vaguely, neither confirming nor denying anything. Let Jason think I was in shock, paralyzed by his betrayal. Let him believe I was scrambling to salvage something from the ruins of my plans. The truth was far more calculated. Jason's launch event was scheduled for Friday evening, a prestigious affair at the Fairmont Hotel. I received an invitation. Apparently, his guilt hadn't completely overridden his ego. He wanted me there to witness his triumph. I RSVP'd yes, with a brief note of congratulations. Meanwhile, my lawyer was preparing the paperwork, the provisional patent application I'd filed months ago, the time-stamped development documents, the email chains showing Jason's acknowledgement of my ownership, the text messages where he asked questions that, in retrospect, were clearly designed to extract information he could use. Do you want to wait until after the launch party? My lawyer asked. Yes, I replied. Let him have his moment in the spotlight. The fall will be that much more spectacular. The day of the launch, I dressed impeccably. A sharp charcoal suit that meant business, subtle makeup that showed I'd made an effort. Nothing about my appearance would suggest I was anything but a gracious friend coming to support a colleague's success. The venue was packed with industry insiders, investors, and tech journalists, Jason stood on a small stage, looking confident in his expensive new suit, describing his revolutionary platform to an attentive audience. Our mutual friends shot awkward glances my way, clearly uncomfortable with the situation, but unwilling to make a scene. InnoVision represents a completely new approach to user experience design, Jason was saying, using almost the exact phrasing I'd crafted in my business plan. We're not just iterating on existing solutions, we're fundamentally reimagining the relationship between designers and their tools. I maintained a pleasant expression, sipping champagne near the back of the room. When he finished his presentation to enthusiastic applause, he scanned the crowd until he found me. Something flickered across his face, relief, guilt, defiance, before he made his way through the admirers toward my position. "Michelle, you came!" His embrace was just a little too tight, his smile a fraction too wide. "What did you think?" "Impressive presentation," I said evenly. "Very familiar vision." His smile faltered slightly. "Well, great minds, right? I always said we were on similar wavelengths." "Indeed we were." I clinked my glass against his. "Congratulations on your launch, Jason." "Thanks." He lowered his voice. "Look, I know this might seem abrupt, but I saw an opportunity and I took it. That's what we've always done, right? Seized opportunities?" "We have indeed, though usually not at each other's expense." He had the grace to look uncomfortable. "Business is business, Michelle. I got the funding lined up and the team assembled. The window was closing. Someone was going to bring this to market, and I made sure it was me." "I see. And the fact that I developed the concept, created the wireframes, and shared everything with you as my friend and potential collaborator? Concepts are just ideas until someone executes them." He shrugged, the movement more defensive than casual. "You were taking too long. Always perfecting, never launching." "And now you've launched." I smiled, raising my glass again. "To execution, then." Relief washed over his face. He thought I was conceding, accepting his betrayal with disappointed grace. "No hard feelings? It's just business, right?" I echoed his text. He nodded eagerly. "Exactly, I knew you'd understand eventually." I excused myself shortly after, exchanging pleasantries with industry contacts as I made my way out. Several people whispered their confusion. Wasn't this my concept? Hadn't I been developing this for months? I merely smiled and said I was happy to see innovative ideas reaching the market. Let Jason have his night of triumph. Tomorrow would bring new revelations. The cease and desist letter was delivered to Jason's office during his post-launch team celebration. My lawyer had timed it perfectly, just as the champagne was flowing and Jason was basking in his success. I wasn't there to witness it, but according to a sympathetic colleague who texted me immediately, the color drained from Jason's face as he read the document. "A cease and desist? For what?" He apparently shouted, loudly enough for the entire office to hear. "This is ridiculous. She's just jealous." Within an hour, my phone was blowing up with texts and calls from Jason. "What the hell, Michelle? A legal threat? Between friends? I thought you understood this is how business works. You can't patent an idea. I've executed it. I have a product." I forwarded each message to my lawyer without responding, letting him dig his hole deeper with every desperate communication. In the days that followed, Jason attempted every approach, from anger to reconciliation to dismissal. "You'll never win this fight," he texted. "My investors have deeper pockets than you ever will." What he didn't know was that I'd been in quiet discussions with rival investors for months. The same investors who had mysteriously pulled out of Jason's second funding round just hours after receiving documentation of my prior claim to the intellectual property. "Ms. Lin," my lawyer reported, "his legal team has requested a meeting. They've reviewed our documentation and apparently advised him that his position is precarious." "Let them sweat for another day," I replied. "Then we'll talk." My phone rang that evening, Jason's mother, Martha, who had always treated me like a daughter. "Michelle, what's happening between you and Jason? He's beside himself." "Did he tell you what he did, Martha?" I asked quietly. "He said you're claiming he stole some business idea, but that's ridiculous. Jason would never—" I have every email, Martha. Every text where he acknowledged my ownership of the concept. Every document showing the development timeline. Would you like me to forward them to you? Silence. Then he said you were taking too long, that someone else would have done it if he didn't. That wasn't his decision to make, and it certainly wasn't his idea to take. Another pause. He's always been impatient, you know that, competitive to a fault. But I can't believe he would deliberately. I couldn't either, Martha, but he did. And he told me it was just business when I confronted him. The sigh that followed held years of a mother's disappointment. I'll talk to him. This isn't the son I raised. By the time our legal teams met 2 days later, Jason's bravado had crumbled. His attorney looked grim as my lawyer methodically presented our evidence. Dated design documents, email chains, the provisional patent application filed months before Jason began assembling his team, and most damning of all, recorded video calls where Jason explicitly acknowledged my ownership of the concept. My client was under the impression that ideas cannot be protected, his lawyer attempted. He believed he was simply executing on a concept that Ms. Lin was developing too slowly. My lawyer countered, your client was not executing on a vague concept. He systematically extracted detailed information about Ms. Lin's proprietary development process, interface design, and business model, all while explicitly acknowledging her ownership in documented communications. That's not capitalizing on a general idea, it's misappropriation of intellectual property. Jason sat slumped in his chair, the reality of his situation finally sinking in. The carefully constructed narrative of his brilliant innovation was unraveling thread by thread. What do you want? He finally asked, his voice hollow. Complete transfer of ownership of InnoVision to Ms. Lin. Immediate cessation of operations under your control. Public acknowledgement of the true origin of the platform. And compensation for damages to Ms. Lin's business timeline. That's everything, he protested weakly. You're asking for everything. You took everything, I replied, meeting his eyes for the first time since the launch party, and called it just business. His lawyer whispered something in his ear, probably advising him that fighting would only make things worse given our documentation. The color had drained from Jason's face as he realized the position he was in. Can we have the room? He asked suddenly. I'd like to speak with Michelle privately. After our lawyers reluctantly stepped out, Jason leaned forward. Was this your plan all along, to let me do all the hard work of launching and then swoop in with legal threats? I couldn't help but laugh. My plan was to develop and launch my own company, Jason. You're the one who hijacked that plan. You were moving too slowly. The market opportunity wasn't yours to seize with my intellectual property, I cut him off. And as for moving slowly, I was being deliberate, securing proper protection, developing a sustainable business model, ensuring the technology was truly innovative, not rushing a half-baked product to market to satisfy my ego. He flinched at that. My product isn't half-baked. No, because you had 2 years of my research and development to build on. 2 years of work you casually decided belonged to you because... Why? Because you're a man who couldn't stand seeing a woman take her time to do something right? That's not fair. This isn't about gender. Isn't it? Would you have done this to one of your male friends from business school, stolen their concept, and then patronizingly told them it's just business when they objected? His silence was answer enough. You know what's truly pathetic, Jason? I would have brought you in as a partner if you'd just been patient. I valued your expertise. I trusted you. You can still trust me, he tried, desperation edging into his voice. We can work together on this. Co-founders. I stood up. That ship sailed when you decided theft was an acceptable business strategy. Your choice now is simple. A messy, public legal battle that will destroy your reputation and drain your finances, or a clean transfer of assets with a face-saving statement about merging our visions. You've thought of everything, haven't you? Bitterness laced his words. I've had to. My best friend stabbed me in the back and called it good business practice. As I walked toward the door, he called after me. What happens to my team, the developers I hired? I turned. They're welcome to interview for positions once I take control. Unlike you, I don't punish people for someone else's ethical failures. Our lawyers returned, and the negotiations continued, but the fight had gone out of Jason. He knew I had him cornered with irrefutable evidence. By the end of the day, we had an agreement in principle. Jason would transfer all assets, intellectual property, and operational control of InnoVision to me. In exchange, I would allow him to save face with a joint announcement about consolidating our complementary visions under Michelle's leadership. As we prepared to leave, Jason asked for one more moment alone. "How long have you been preparing for this?" he asked quietly. "Since the day you stopped contributing to our shared research document, but kept checking for my updates." "I know you, Jason. I recognized what was happening." He nodded slowly. "I never thought you'd fight back like this. You've always been so accommodating." "That was your first mistake," I said simply, confusing professionalism with weakness. The tech press had a field day with the story, though they didn't know the half of it. "InnoVision Leadership Reorganization," read the headlines, with carefully worded statements about original vision and unified direction. Industry insiders whispered the truth, of course, but publicly, both Jason and I maintained the fiction of an amicable consolidation. Behind the scenes, I worked quickly to stabilize the company. Most of Jason's team stayed on. They were talented professionals who had no part in his deception. Some even expressed relief at the change in leadership, hinting that Jason's management style had been erratic and credit-grabbing. 3 months after taking control, I relaunched the platform under its original name, Interphase Design Studio. The product was stronger than Jason's rushed version, more thoughtfully constructed, more elegantly designed, more attuned to actual user needs rather than flashy features that impressed investors but frustrated customers. Jason tried to launch another startup 6 months later, but found the doors that had once opened eagerly for him now remained firmly closed. Venture capitalists are a surprisingly tight-knit community, and word had spread about his ethical flexibility. "He's basically unemployable in the Valley now," a mutual contact told me over coffee. "Nobody wants to work with someone who might steal their ideas and call it just business." I took no pleasure in his downfall. Well, perhaps a small, fleeting satisfaction. But my focus was on building what I had always intended to build, a company based on innovation, integrity, and actual value creation. A year after the takeover, Interphase was thriving. We'd secured Series B funding at a valuation 3 times what Jason had achieved, expanded to offices in 3 cities, and been named one of the most promising startups in our sector. I was reviewing designs for our new feature set when my assistant announced an unexpected visitor, Martha Sullivan, Jason's mother. "Michelle," she said, embracing me warmly, "the office looks wonderful." "Thank you for coming, Martha. It's good to see you." She looked around appreciatively. "So this is what it was supposed to be all along." "Something like this, yes," I agreed, offering her a seat. "How is Jason?" She sighed. "Working for his cousin's marketing firm in Denver? It's not what he imagined for himself?" "No, I imagine not. He still believes you overreacted, you know." She said this with the tired resignation of someone who had heard the same justifications too many times. "Says you could have worked something out, been partners." "That option existed before he decided to steal my company, not after." Martha nodded slowly. "I didn't come to make excuses for him. I came because I'm proud of what you've built here and because I wanted to tell you that what you did, standing up for yourself, not letting him get away with it, and that took courage." "Thank you, Martha. That means a lot." After she left, I walked around our bustling office. Designers and developers collaborated in open workspaces, creating the tools I had envisioned years ago. The journey hadn't been what I planned, but the destination was even better than I'd hoped. My phone buzzed with a notification. Jason had finally removed me from his social media contacts. His last post visible to me was a quote about learning from setbacks and the unfairness of business. I smiled slightly, thinking about how differently he might have defined fairness if his theft had succeeded. In my office hung a framed text message. "No hard feelings, it's just business, right?" Below it sat our latest industry award, proof that sometimes the best response to betrayal isn't just survival, but spectacular success. 2 years after taking back my company, Interface had become an industry leader. Our platform was revolutionizing how designers worked, just as I had envisioned. We'd expanded internationally, grown to over 100 employees, and were being courted by major tech companies for a potential acquisition. Offers I consistently declined. The annual Tech Innovation Conference was being held in San Francisco, and as a featured speaker, I was presenting our latest developments to an audience of industry leaders. As I scanned the crowded auditorium before my talk, I spotted a familiar face in the back row. Jason. He looked different, his designer clothes replaced by a more subdued business casual look, his once confident posture slightly diminished. Our eyes met briefly before I turned my attention to the introduction being given by the conference organizer. My presentation was met with enthusiastic applause. The journey of Interface, carefully edited to omit the uglier details of its early days, was a compelling narrative of perseverance and innovation. As attendees crowded around afterward with questions and congratulations, I noticed Jason hovering at the edges of the group, waiting. When the crowd finally thinned, he approached. "Impressive presentation," he said, echoing my words from that launch party 2 years ago. "Thank you," I replied neutrally. "Could we grab coffee? Just 10 minutes." He glanced around. "I'm not here to cause problems, I promise." Against my better judgment, I agreed. We found a quiet corner in the conference center cafe. "You've done exactly what you said you would," he began, stirring his coffee unnecessarily. "Interphase is everything you planned it to be." "It is. Better than what I would have built," he admitted, the words seemingly difficult for him. "I would have cut corners, compromised the vision for faster growth." I said nothing, waiting for him to get to the point. "I've had a lot of time to think about what happened," he continued. "At first I was angry, convinced myself you had overreacted, that ideas belong to whoever executes them first. And now? Now I understand what I destroyed wasn't just a business opportunity, but 15 years of friendship and trust." He met my eyes directly. "I'm not asking for forgiveness, Michelle. I just wanted you to know that I finally get it. What I did was wrong. Not just legally, but morally, as a friend." The admission surprised me. The Jason I had known was too proud to acknowledge such a fundamental error in judgment. "What made you come to this revelation?" I asked, genuinely curious. He laughed without humor. "Karma, I guess. 6 months ago, a junior designer at my cousin's firm stole my concept for a campaign, presented it as his own work to the executive team. When I confronted him, he looked me straight in the eye and said, 'It's just business?' I couldn't help but finish." Jason nodded. "Exactly those words, and suddenly I understood how it felt from your perspective, the violation of it, the arrogance." "What did you do?" "Nothing. What could I do? Everyone knew about my history with you. If I'd complained, I would have been the hypocrite of the century." He sighed. "So I watched someone else take credit for my work and told myself it was the universe balancing the scales." We sat in silence for a moment, the buzz of the conference continuing around us. "I'm sorry, Michelle. Truly. Not just for what I lost, but for what I took from you, the clean launch you deserved, the unshadowed success." I studied him, looking for signs of manipulation or hidden agenda, but found only resignation and genuine regret. "Thank you for saying that," I finally replied. "It doesn't change what happened, but I appreciate the acknowledgement." He nodded, understanding the limits of this tentative peace. "Your parents would be proud of you, you know. Standing your ground like that. Building something meaningful." The mention of my parents, both gone now, was unexpected. They had known Jason since our college days, had treated him like family. "They always said you were the stubborn one." I smiled slightly. "Too stubborn to let anyone push you round." "They were right." He glanced at his watch. "I should let you get back to your admirers." As he stood to leave, I asked, "What will you do now, Jason?" "I'm starting over. Small consulting projects, rebuilding my reputation one client at a time." He shrugged. "No shortcuts this time." Good luck, I said, and meant it. Watching him walk away, I felt a complex mixture of emotions. Lingering anger, yes, but also a certain closure. The lessons from our fallout had clearly shaped us both, in very different ways. Back at Interphase headquarters the following week, my team was celebrating our latest milestone: 1 million active users on the platform. As champagne corks popped and congratulations flowed, my chief technology officer raised his glass. To Michelle, who never compromised her vision, not for speed, not for convenience, and not for anyone who thought they could take it from her. Cheers erupted around the room, and I smiled, thinking of how differently this story could have ended if I hadn't protected myself, if I hadn't stood firm against betrayal dressed as business savvy. Later that evening, alone in my office, I removed the framed text message that had hung on my wall for 2 years. No hard feelings, it's just business, right? Its presence had served its purpose, a reminder of why boundaries matter, why documentation matters, why self-advocacy matters. In its place, I hung our company's newly articulated value statement with one line highlighted: innovation without integrity is not innovation at all. My phone buzzed with a message from our lead investor. Acquisition offer coming in from tech giant X. Numbers look astronomical. Should we consider? I smiled, typing my response. Prepare for negotiations, but remember, this company isn't just an asset to be traded. It's a vision realized despite those who tried to hijack it. Value accordingly. 5 years after Jason's betrayal, Interphase wasn't just a successful company. It was a testament to the principle that how you build matters as much as what you build. Every entrepreneur who heard my story, the carefully edited public version, took away the same lesson. Protect your ideas, document your process, and never confuse friendship with business partnerships without clear agreements. In an industry profile that month, a journalist asked me about the key to my success. Persistence, I answered, and excellent documentation. She laughed, thinking it was a joke, but I just smiled. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just success, it's success built on the very foundation someone else tried to steal from beneath you. The final irony came when Jason applied for a position at Interphase 3 years later. His resume came across my desk with a note. I know this is a long shot, but I'd like to contribute to what you've built, properly this time. I considered it longer than anyone might have expected, not out of residual affection or nostalgia, but because I recognized something in his journey: the humbling lessons of consequence, the slow rebuilding of professional ethics. In the end, I forwarded his application to our HR director with a note: junior position only, strict oversight, no access to IP development. He was hired as a mid-level designer, his former status as a CEO nowhere evident in his new role. On his first day, he stopped by my office briefly. Thank you for the chance, he said simply. Prove it was the right decision, I replied. As he turned to leave, I added, and Jason, remember that here it's never just business. It's about integrity in everything we do. He nodded, the lesson written clearly in the humbler set of his shoulders, in the careful way he now moved through a world where his name carried the shadow of his past choices. My company continued to thrive, not because I had reclaimed it from theft, but because it had been built right from the beginning on innovation, yes, but also on principles that no opportunistic betrayal could ever compromise. Sometimes people ask if I regret how things unfolded. The messy battle, the broken friendship, the public scrutiny. I always give them the same answer. I regret that it was necessary, but never that I fought for what was mine. In the end, Jason's betrayal taught me the most valuable business lesson of all. Your ideas are only as protected as you make them. Your rights only as strong as your willingness to defend them. And it's just business is often what people say when they've abandoned their principles in pursuit of profit. The success I now enjoy isn't despite that harsh lesson, it's because of it, and that might be the most satisfying victory of all.